Remember when I said that this channel was not a commentary channel?
It was all a lie. Guys, it was all a lie. She lied.
Yeah. According to the script I have in front of me, this is going to be a long one again, so you might want to get a drink to go along with this one. And we might want to get started because this video has been requested so many times in the comments. I see it all the time, and I'm sorry it's taken so long, but here we are, and you guys just give me the best video ideas. There's always something that I'm not expecting to find in my research that crops up, so thank you so much, and keep sending your recommendations because at this point, I'm at your mercy. Anyway, today's video is about the Desperate Housewives show, but not exactly about the show. If you've never watched Desperate Housewives, I'm not going to shame you, but we need to change that. We have to, because that show is a comfort show. Even if you don't know what the show is about, I'm 100% sure that you've seen one of these mobile game ads. It's about the secrets of the neighbors in suburbia. Well, Desperate Housewives is basically the original of all of this. I remember being about 10 years old and Desperate Housewives being on TV and me thinking, oh no, they're talking about sex. I'm not supposed to be watching this, so I'm just gonna go. So I only really watched Desperate Housewives when I was in university, so when I was 18. And as I told here on the channel before, I went to architecture school for 1 year. As you can imagine, in architecture school, there's a lot of work and a lot of assignments that's basically just putting mock-ups together, not really using much brain power. So I ate up Desperate Housewives in like 3 months. It was amazing. And researching for this video, honestly, I want to rewatch it again because this show is just, there's drama, there's intrigue, there's comedy, there's romance, there's just everything you want, everything you want. It's like the show for everyone. But unfortunately today I'm going to give you the news that no one wants to hear, in that there's a very dark subject around this show which is the topic that we're going to talk about today, and it's called the Desperate Housewives syndrome. And I had no idea this was a thing, probably because I'm not the demographic, but I still think it's very relevant to talk about, and we're going to encompass a lot of things that also surround other shows of the same time. If I could go back in time, I would actually join up this video together with my Sex and the City video, because I feel like there's so many things that I could have talked in that video that I didn't. Just watch this video and think about Sex and the City at the same time because it's very relevant. So the concept around Desperate Housewives syndrome isn't something that's really new. It's something that's been around for a long time. Initially after the First World War in Britain, where it was referred to as housewife neurosis in the 30s, and then later after the Second World War as housewife syndrome. So this housewife syndrome was a diagnosis that used to be given to housewives by medical professionals around the time where many of the tasks like washing clothes, washing the dishes, cleaning the house, etc. became mechanized by use of devices such as dishwashers, washing machines, vacuum cleaners, refrigerators, etc. So the theory was that because these tasks were no longer manual, housewives had a lot more free time, and this resulted in housewives becoming sort of trapped in their homes, taking care of the kids, not having a lot of socialization, with seemingly plenty of time to be feeling anxious, lonely, not very personally satisfied, etc. So this was classified as a neurosis. So obviously this topic could be a whole video in itself, but today we're going to fast forward a few decades, and in the early 2000s, when Desperate Housewives became a huge hit on TV, obviously domestic life had been modernized to a degree, and the term Desperate Housewives syndrome came about around the time with a new single. Let's say it dropped a new album, and this time it was body image issues. And that is what we're going to focus on today. The earliest articles that I could find interviewing medical professionals on this new syndrome were from 2005, which was basically just 1 year after Desperate Housewives was released. One expert described Desperate Housewives as a popular program showing older women who are attractive and have rampant love lives. He said he believed it was influencing women to develop eating disorders. A second expert said, quote, "It was virtually totally unheard of for an older woman to be suffering from anorexia 5 years ago. Now, around a fifth of my patients are women approaching middle age. It's not just housewives, but women from all walks of life, no matter how intelligent or how successful they are. Just for context, after 2006, Desperate Housewives had a consistent viewership of more than 50 million viewers outside the United States, and it remained the single most watched comedy show on TV for at least 4 years straight. In the years of 2011 and 2012, again, medical professionals from multiple countries came out talking about this new syndrome and what it meant. Some experts expressed that whereas before it was more common for problems of body image dissatisfaction and developing of eating disorders to take place in teenage years or early 20s, now this was spreading to all ages. Other experts refer a bigger pressure to be a superwoman, women feeling like they have to be successful both in the workplace and at home and looking good while doing all of it. And for this to be centered around an idealization of youth and thinness. Back in Canada and in the US, national eating disorder centers were also reporting an increase in middle-aged women seeking treatment. While researching for this topic, there was a question in the back of my mind the whole time around whether correlation really equal causation in this case. Was the fact that many middle-aged women were now seeking treatment for eating disorders really caused by the show that was aired? Or was it a byproduct of other things that were happening around the time? According to Dr. Chris Baston, generally, eating disorders develop when external triggers coincide with internal vulnerability factors. An external trigger could be a comment from someone about weight or seeing oneself in a photo and judging that badly. The internal vulnerabilities are anything that makes the person more likely to focus excessively on weight, shape, and physical appearance. According to the article of the women that this doctor sees, who are over 35, he says nearly all developed an eating disorder in early adulthood and either still have the problems or are experiencing a relapse after years of being well. Dr. Alex Yellowlees said in 2005 that it was inappropriate to link women suffering eating disorders with shallow television characters. These women are not all the same. Some have had the illness all their lives and it only comes to medical attention in their 30s or 40s. Others never developed a full-blown illness, and others have had it triggered off by something in their lives. So obviously this tells us that not everyone, every single middle-aged woman watching Desperate Housewives would go on to develop an eating disorder. I think that's clear and obvious. Now, what I noticed during my research is that Desperate Housewives is not the only culprit in this phenomenon and in this syndrome, but there was a whole cocktail of things happening around the time in the early 2000s that really contributed to the middle-aged women, or I mean, after 35, you're not immediately middle-aged, but older women to be targeted in terms of now they have to care about their body image in a way that up until then, mostly younger women were targeted. Professor Marika Tigman studied the effect of Desperate Housewives on body image and observed that celebrities such as Angelina Jolie appear to prove that thinness in midlife bestows many real-life benefits. For example, sexual desirability, happiness, and wealth that may be particularly persuasive. It used to be that older women were not depicted in the media. Real older women were able to get off the body image and appearance treadmill, but now the depiction of beautiful older women makes it seem like everybody should look like that, and that women should keep up their appearance no matter what their age. So this paper was a great read, and in summary it highlights that contrary to younger women that apparently were more influenced by magazines at the time, women above 35 seem to be more influenced by images on TV, where there was a bigger representation of older women in commercials, soap operas, and shows. Especially reality TV shows such as The Biggest Loser and Extreme Makeover, which usually depicted average-looking, commonly middle-aged women undergoing extreme dieting and exercise regimes, and even cosmetic surgery to achieve the ideal look. The authentic nature of these shows may well have rendered two key messages that are very persuasive. One, average is a deficiency that must be fixed, and two, a transformation of the physical appearance will result in a overall better you. This study found that the media was not associated with body dissatisfaction in a direct manner, but rather via a number of cognitive processes, such as internalization of the messages, social comparison, appearance investment, and aging anxiety. So it means that the media itself doesn't directly cause people to feel dissatisfied with their bodies, but there are a key number of messages that are portrayed via the media that then cause people, and particularly women, to internalize these and as a result feel dissatisfied with their own appearance. Competitive dieting is a concept that was very popular at the time when there were a lot of shows with a largely female cast. Some examples like Friends, Ally McBeal, and ultimately Desperate Housewives saw the female protagonists progressively lose weight as the seasons went on. Some theories revolve around the fact that having the same access to the same level of makeup and wardrobe, among other things, the only way that the actresses really have to stand out is by losing weight. This is very simplistic, and I obviously don't think that the actresses would do this on purpose, but I think it does go to show how Hollywood is this machine that rewards women sacrificing their health for their appearance. Now, on Desperate Housewives specifically, we know that this isn't just a theory because according to an interview with Hello Magazine in 2008, Dana Delaney said that there was a silent dieting competition of sorts between the girls in the cast. According to her, when I got on the show, the costume designer said to me, "Don't get the Desperate Housewives disease." When I asked what it was, she said that everybody loses weight and the clothes don't fit. I do think that there is a competitive dieting thing going on, and because I'm such a contrarian, I'm the only one who gained weight. In the 2008 book Dying to Diet, this phenomenon is explored, and it even analyzes the irony that at the same time that there were articles shaming the actresses and celebrities for looking too thin, advertising agencies and the fashion industry were booking up these same celebrities as models. This endorses the idea not only to the actresses and celebrities, but to other women everywhere that thinness comes accompanied by success, money, happiness, and also that if you buy these products that these companies are using these celebrities to promote, then you will achieve the same results. Also, it doesn't help that by contrast, at the time, if there was ever an overweight character in a show, they were usually portrayed as their life being a mess, they struggled to find love, or they were just used as comedic relief. Going back to talking about how celebrities have access to a gold standard of skincare and makeup, artists and products, I think older women have always been much wiser in understanding that the shimmer and glitter of being a celebrity and being on TV is a product of having access to all of these things, plus good lighting, plus being able to afford skin treatments, etc. And I don't know if I'm the only one, but I still remember leading up to 2012, most of the general population didn't have much of a clue around makeup and hairstyling. And let me explain what I mean by this. In the years before YouTube makeup gurus and beauty Instagrammers and TikTokers, the industry secrets were indeed industry secrets. No one knew about contouring and baking and I don't know much about makeup to keep talking about this. You know, if there was something that was used on celebrities, very rarely that knowledge would be passed on to the general population. Nowadays, we have access to all of this and more, many times shared by the celebrities or their makeup artists themselves. So we are very privileged to know the tricks of the trade. And this is just makeup. So if we talk about plastic surgery, that's a whole other game completely. I'm willing to put a bet that before 2015, plastic surgery was mostly a conspiracy theory that people pretty much were only able to agree existed or was happening when a celebrity would come out completely disfigured because they had too much Botox, or when a celebrity very clearly looked much different than they used to. Probably no one ever doubted that Joan Rivers had plastic surgery. She was also very open about it, but when it comes to more subtle procedures, celebrities always denied it, and so it was always just a speculation. People just assumed that they were able to age more gracefully, and when they denied that they had had plastic surgery, then there wasn't really a way that anyone could go and disprove that they were saying the truth. Today, we have plastic surgeons and experts on social media analyzing celebrity faces and basically explaining to us that these procedures that we didn't even know were a thing before can have such subtle effects that it really looks like nothing was done. This is obviously the kind of cosmetic work that celebrities are able to afford, and the kind of work that fools many women into thinking that they themselves are aging poorly or that celebrities are more genetically lucky than them, because they just don't know that those celebrities have aged that way because they were able to afford procedures that most of us can't. In Desperate Housewives, this of course becomes important because the target audience was women above the age of 35, and the cast themselves are within the same demographic. As we're all humans and we all have the natural tendency to compare ourselves to others, it is understandable that any woman in their 40s with wrinkles, which is very natural, to wonder how do the Desperate Housewives look like their skin is so smooth and clear as if they were in their 20s. Hell, even I'm 25 and I feel like I have more wrinkles in my forehead than Eva Longoria, so maybe I should start using some Revita Lift. And for the second and last part of this video, we're going to be focusing on dieting and exercise, which is everyone's favorite part of the videos. I do have some bad news, which is I don't have a lot of information to go with in terms of actual specifics of the diet, but we do have a lot of ground to cover. Now, because I always see at least one comment talking about how this is skinny shaming and so on, I just want to reiterate that my videos are absolutely not about shaming any celebrities. They are instead about highlighting the amount of effort and, yes, sometimes dangerous, unhealthy behavior that is necessary to achieve the goals which are rewarded and perpetrated by the ruthless Hollywood industry. If someone is naturally skinny by their genetic composition, then I have absolutely no problem whatsoever with it. But engaging in harmful eating behavior and extreme dieting and exercise regimes has serious health detriment, and I just don't think we should be aspiring to develop osteoporosis for the aesthetic, and that is the hill I'm willing to die on. That's why I make these videos, and I hope this message comes through, so now we'll carry on. Starting with Gabby, played by Eva Longoria. She is a petite woman, 5'2", same height as me. She's the one I have the most specific information on, so we'll start with her. She attributes her good looks to her good genes and the magic of television, but that is absolutely not everything. Because she was a cheerleader, a personal trainer, a gymnast, an aerobics instructor, and did you know that she also has a degree in kinesiology, which is the study of the movement of the human body? I actually didn't know this, and she also published a cookbook in 2011. I did find interviews where she says that if she wants to lose weight, she will cut down on carbs. So that's her strategy, but let's just start from saying that carbs per se don't make you gain or lose weight any more than the other foods. One different factor between carbs and proteins or fats is that proteins and fats are slower digestion. So if you have proteins and fats, they will digest slower and keep you full for longer. However, if you only eat proteins and fats, but you still eat more calories than you need, you'll still gain weight. Fats have approximately double the calories gram for gram when compared to carbs or proteins. You will gain weight if you're in a caloric surplus. Simple as that, whether the calories come from fats, carbs, or proteins. So if you stop eating carbs, but then you double up on the fats, you may gain weight because you're eating more calories. Now, something much more important that I want to take away from Eva is her divorce around 2010. According to her, she fell into a depression around the time of her divorce, and she basically stopped eating. Now, we discussed this in my last video about stress and how it can affect your diet. It is a very possible result and a very common result for people to lose weight when they undergo a period of stress. The problem was that as she was going through that difficult period, people were making comments to her that divorce agreed with her and that she looked better than ever.
So people kept saying, "You look amazing, you know, divorce agrees with you." And I was like, I don't feel good. I had no energy. And I didn't know I was depressed. I mean, I knew it was a sad moment in my life.
I got the most compliments because I was so skinny. I was not eating. I was depressed. I was sad. My diet was coffee. I was just depleted of every vitamin. The doctor said, it's as if someone took a straw and sucked everything out of your body. You don't have any iron and your liver's overacting. So it was funny what people would see as healthy. In my worst time, people were saying I've never looked better. Plus, let's not forget that this was a time when if any celebrity ever anywhere on the planet showed anything remotely resembling a tummy roll, tabloids everywhere would print the picture and spread the rumor that they were pregnant. This was Eva's reality for several years, and especially in season 5 of Desperate Housewives, where the plot jumps ahead 5 years. Gabby has children and she gained weight, and as a result, Eva gained weight as well. And reportedly, Eva even had to wear a fat suit on set to film those scenes. But in 2008, she rightfully called out the critics on this. It's like, oh my god, she's fat. I hate the message they're sending out to young women everywhere who think, god, she's a size 0 and she's still too big. Now, finally, I know that BMI is heavily debated, and I've talked about this on the channel. When we're measuring overweight, there are reasons why BMI may not be accurate in measuring someone's body composition and body mass. However, measuring underweight, there are only very specific situations where BMI doesn't work. Whereas in measuring overweight, BMI doesn't really distinguish whether your body mass is muscle, fat, bone, water, etc. But when measuring underweight, if the body mass isn't there, then it just isn't there. So there's a few specific scenarios where BMI wouldn't be appropriate to measure underweight, but I do believe that it is a fairly accurate way of measuring it for underweight. So for that reason, I'll be using BMI as a reference. So in Eva's case, according to the measurements I found, her BMI is 19, which is low on the normal body weight range, but it's still on the normal body weight. Of course, as we're talking about the dangers of extreme diets for middle-aged women, I want to bring up this graph, which was designed as a result of a meta-analysis that looked at 32 studies, including nearly 200,000 older adults, and it found that for that age bracket, the ideal BMI target goes up, sitting between 24 and 30, which is considerably higher than the 18.5 low bar for normal weight in younger adults. This is because with age, we lose muscle and bone density, and if we add to this being at a low weight, it increases the risk of falls, broken bones, and mortality, along with a decreased ability to perform tasks independently. So while I'm using the normal adult BMI scale here, just keep in mind that the more someone ages away from their 20s, the more their BMI should rather be between 20 and 30 to be considered normal weight. So now moving on to Brie Vandekamp, played by Marcia Cross. I couldn't find any information on her diet or exercise specifically, except around the time that she gave birth to her two twin girls in 2007. And this was a time where every single interview I found with her, everyone was asking her about her weight. And you'll understand why. She said that before she gave birth, she topped 190 pounds. That was before she gave birth. And then after she gave birth, it took her only 8 weeks to return to her normal weight or pre-pregnancy weight, which meant a weight loss of 40 pounds in 8 weeks. Basically, she said she dieted and she did some exercises from a company that I'm very sure profited greatly by being associated with her name. But she did explain that she felt the pressure to bounce back, and that if it weren't for the show, she wouldn't have felt the need to be back to being quite so thin because the camera adds those pounds. And I don't know, I've never been a mom, but I can't quite imagine going through the process of generating one or multiple human beings inside my own body and having the pressure to bounce back that quickly. I know even I find it weird when I see Instagram influencers posting pictures with absolutely flat stomachs not even a month after they gave birth. I mean, that is really impressive. But at the same time, how normal should it be that our bodies go back to that state so quickly after going through an entire process of 9 months. Anyway, if you're interested in this topic specifically, I recommend this video by Stephanie Lang, where she delves into this topic in much greater detail and from her experience as a mom in regards to social media and Instagram specifically. Anyway, Marcia had been rumored before as having been on the baby food diet along with Jennifer Aniston. And if you don't know what the baby food diet is, you really don't need to, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Basically, it was a fad diet in the 2000s where you only ate baby food, you know, like those baby food pots. And the mechanism of the diet is basically because the food pots are so low in calorie, you would eventually eat fewer calories at the end of the day, or you would become so bored of the flavors of the baby food that you would just be so bored to eat that you just wouldn't eat at all. Sounds very healthy, I know. Anyway, she denied being on this diet.
Where did that come from? I mean, baby food?
sounds crazy.
It's crazy. I do not eat baby food.
And basically not having any specific details on her diet, I did find evidence that her diet was low fat and portion controlled, as in very low calories. I mean, she tells us that. She says, not eating is a constant struggle. It's like they pay me not to eat. It's a living hell. I've often felt there was a lot of pressure on me to look good, especially on shows like Melrose Place, where the girls were so skinny. I thought, they're all so petite and I'm this big girl. I often look at myself and worry about how I look. And I feel like we already went through this one a little bit when we covered the Friends diet, and Lisa Kudrow specifically expressed the same exact sentiment, that she felt like she was this big girl. According to reported measurements I found, Marcia Cross was at a BMI of 19 as well, and she said that the first thing she was going to do once Desperate Housewives was over was that she was going to ditch her diet. So hopefully this shows how hard and how much effort it takes to look like these celebrities, because even these celebrities don't want to look like these celebrities. If you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking, then you're wondering, how is it possible that they can go through years and years of basically starvation to just look good for these shows? And that's where appetite suppressants come in. All the reports on all the girls I found, all of them swore by this appetite suppressant called Hoodia. Hoodia is a plant native to South Africa, and it became popular in the early 2000s for its properties to basically trick your brain into thinking you're full, thereby reducing your appetite. The chemical that was thought to cause this effect was a chemical called P57, which in one study on lab rats was injected into the rats' brains, and it resulted in a decrease in food intake as well as an increase of ATP content and production in the hypothalamus in the brain. Now, what does that mean? ATP is our body's energy currency, basically. So by increasing the content or production of this energy in our brain, in the hypothalamus specifically, which is where most of the appetite regulation occurs, it would trick our brain into thinking that there's enough energy there, therefore we don't need to feel hungry. It would suppress our appetite. The problem is that this study injected the P57 chemical directly into the rat's brains, which doesn't really occur when you take the supplement in form of a pill through your mouth. Other studies found that the gastric juices in our stomach break down most of the P57 content, therefore it is very unlikely that enough of it would get to our brains in order to produce a significant effect. From my research and from what I can find, there was only one randomized clinical trial done in humans in 2011 where a group took Hoodia for 15 days straight, and this study didn't find any significant changes, whether in food intake, body weight, or percentage of body fat in relation to the control group who took a placebo instead. Ultimately, following various reports of adverse side effects, it seems that the companies that marketed this product heavily at the time got a little scared, so it became less popular. However, I can still find this being sold online, which is a little scary if you ask me. Now moving on to Teri Hatcher, who played Susan. I couldn't find, again, any specific details on Teri's diet, but I wanted to talk about Teri Hatcher specifically because I feel like from all the actresses' diets and all the celebrity diets that I've covered and all the research I've done for this channel, Teri Hatcher seems to be the one that attracted the most controversy and interest around her body weight and appearance of all of them. For context, Teri Hatcher played Lois Lane in Lois and Clark in the 90s, and she was very successful at the time. A photo of her wrapped in a Superman cape and nothing else was at one point in 1994 the most downloaded photo of the entire internet for 6 months straight, and that was 20,000 downloads. Anyway, she was considered a sex symbol back then, and after Lois and Clark ended, she didn't really have much going on until she got casted in Desperate Housewives. So when she got casted in Desperate Housewives, people started comparing her appearance in the 2000s with her appearance from the 90s. Specifically, people got concerned and started commenting that she looked to be much thinner when she was casted in Desperate Housewives. At some point in 2006, a picture of her jogging was published on magazines, and it was showing her legs looking seemingly too thin. So tabloids started printing stories saying that she must be suffering from clinical Now, I'll go into a little bit of detail of why I think this is a problem. I think there is a very fine line between skinny shaming and genuine concern. I think it's normal for people to be concerned or to show concern when someone doesn't look healthy, or in this case, if they are looking like they are losing weight to a degree that is unhealthy. The problem I find is the approach. Obviously, tabloids are not the way to show concern to anyone about anything, mainly because tabloids are in the business of printing stories for money, not for helping people. Not only they publish the stories in a way that shames the person, but they expose the person to the entire world. And also in their stories, they write things that they are not qualified to write about, specifically saying that someone suffers from clinical, to the point that Teri had to come out and basically address this.
When you read that you were anorexic,
Yeah.
you thought what? You are thin, I must say.
I'm thin, and I have
To me,
really...
you are like minuscule.
I'm thin, and I
Yeah.
have very skinny legs. I actually sent your producer a shot of me when I was like 18 as a 49er cheerleader.
You're the same size.
I'm pretty much the same size, and I have those skinny legs. I mean, even if I ever gained weight, I think I would still have skinny legs. And it seems like what they concentrate on is my legs and how super skinny they are. But I'm really strong, you know. I work out, I hike, I horseback ride, whatever. Anyways, I am thin, so there you go.
And I'm not even thinking that anyone here, me included, is in the business of trying to prove or disprove that, because it's none of our business. I read part of her book that she published in 2006, and in the book she mentions that when she was growing up, she got teased for her skinny legs, and she used to be called spider legs, and now in the 2000s, everyone envied her legs. She repeats that she only dieted once in her life, and that she hated it, that she normally eats healthily, and that she loves to exercise, and that the same genetics that gave her a skinny frame also gave her high cholesterol, so she needs to be very careful about eating high-fat foods because her health will suffer. Then we circle back to the misconception that skinny equals healthy, which is not the case, and Teri is absolutely right on this one. Most importantly, from what I read in her book, her perspective around health and eating and exercising seems to me to be a very healthy perspective. And of course, I'm guiding myself off of written words on a paper, so take that for what it's worth. But from the way she describes her past trauma and her experiences, what I do find is that most likely her low weight at different points was the result of self-neglect and a very busy work schedule. The book itself is called Burnt Toast, and I think it's a great metaphor in her definition. When you're metaphorically serving breakfast to family, she would take the metaphorical last piece of burnt toast to herself so that the rest of the family can have the metaphorical golden brown buttery piece of toast for them. What she means is that she will neglect herself in favor of others. In an interview with her skincare therapist, because yes, being a celebrity doesn't just mean you apply Revitalift from L'Oreal, but it actually means that you can afford skincare therapists to come to your own house late at night to do your own skincare routine before you go to bed. She said that, of course, Teri didn't have a completely balanced life, but that was normal because she was being paid a lot of money to look a certain way, and she had to keep that up. In addition, she said that Teri had such a busy work schedule starting somewhere at 5 in the morning that she didn't really have much time to pig out, and that many times, because she didn't have a personal chef at home, she was either too tired or wasn't home much, so she would skip dinner. Again, we talked about this in our last video about stress and how it affects your diet. It is very common for people who have very stressful jobs and job life. And just because celebrities have a different job than us that seems more glamorous or whatever, doesn't mean that they work less hours than us. Sometimes they work more. I do believe that a very busy work schedule can definitely cause you to lose weight because your brain's just busy with other things. For sure, I know that when I was studying and working full-time, I was the lowest weight I'd ever been. I wasn't unhealthy, but I was very skinny. So in my case, it was just a result of how my schedule was going, and it had nothing to do with my appearance, why I lost weight. It just happened. So on top of that, just put yourself in the shoes of a celebrity that has to be in front of a camera as their job for the majority of the day. Regardless, as I mentioned in the beginning, her appearance and weight attracted a lot of interest and controversy. I did find Teri's measurements plastered across the internet in different forums, and those measurements ranged anywhere between a BMI of 16 to a BMI of 19. Whether any of those are the correct ones, I wasn't there to check, but this is the information we have, and I'll just leave it out there. Today, however, from what I've seen, she's looking super healthy. She's been doing triathlons for years. That's not an easy task to do. She has a YouTube channel as well, so I think she's doing very well. Now on to Felicity Huffman playing Lynette in the series. I will not talk about any of the college admissions thing, not here. I also didn't find any specific information on her particular diet. I did find that she came out early in the Desperate Housewives journey as having suffered from and in her teens and in her 20s. In 2005, she had already claimed that she had fully recovered, but in her Emmy acceptance speech, she still referred to herself in her 20s as being a chunky girl.
And finally, I would like to thank the incomparable William H. Macy for taking a chunky 22-year-old with a bad perm and glasses out into a cow pasture and kissing me and making me his wife.
In interviews, she expressed that as an actress, she never felt like she was thin enough, she was never pretty enough, her boobs weren't big enough, and everything was judged by herself as being a good time in her life because she was thin or being a bad time in her life because she was fat. And you know, these beliefs are completely unfounded from an outside perspective because I went back and I tried to find pictures of Felicity in her younger years, and through the years I could not find one single picture where she is visibly overweight, at least to what I consider to be overweight. But again, eating disorders are mental illnesses that distort your perception of yourself. So I just hope she's doing better now. More on that, and circling back to competition and comparison among a female cast in a TV show. Felicity gave an interview after her film Transamerica came out. Transamerica is a 2005 film where she played a trans woman, and she said that playing that role for her was a relief when compared to her role in Desperate Housewives, which to her felt like a losing battle. Again, we're talking about physical appearance and beauty and everything that's associated with it. Very important that I want to mention as well is that in 2008, Felicity said that she finally found a trainer that told her that she wasn't eating enough. She said that previous trainers that she had kept trying to get her to keep a weight that was below her ideal weight, and that would shame her if she would as much as eat a muffin. And this is perhaps something that more people who are not celebrities can relate to, but I can help but wonder the effect that trainers have in the industry as well, because these kinds of trainers perpetrate the standard which is practiced in the industry. Anyway, Felicity's measurements that I found have her at a BMI of 20, which is considered normal weight. And finally, Nicollette Sheridan, which I wasn't really sure if I should include her or not, but I'm including her because she was part of the official original cast. She played Edie Britt on the series, not a lot of specifics on her particular diet again, but what I could find was that she practiced portion control, eating lots of fruits and vegetables, and lots of cardio, from swimming to running with her dog and hiking. But finally, regarding Nicolette's beauty, I think the bit that most people are interested about her is how she remains so beautiful, and in particular if she's had any plastic surgery done over the years. She does admit to having regular skincare facial treatments, which I believe is a standard for any celebrity, but she always has denied any rumors of plastic surgery, even though some doctors have rumored that her breasts have noticeably increased over the years. The alleged breast augmentation would be something that would throw off my BMI calculation, therefore I won't be sharing that today, whether she had the breast augmentation or not. If she did, the fake tatas have weight that would increase her weight, therefore giving a false representation of her body mass. So I'm going to skip that one. Conclusion, because it's getting dark outside and I'm losing light here. Yeah, this video was mostly just talking about the Desperate Housewives syndrome, how media affects viewers and demographics in specific ways, in this case, middle-aged women in the early 2000s. I think this is super interesting. This is the reason why I make these videos, is to explore how the media influences us and to show us in this day and age how looking like this is not a piece of cake. Literally, you cannot have cake. And I didn't script anything specific for the conclusion, but basically I just wanted to talk about all these different aspects of media influencing different demographics with TV shows, magazines, etc. Anyway, I don't have anything else to talk about. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, because I'm always very interested to knowing your experiences. If you were a teenager or an adult when Desperate Housewives was airing, did it impact you? Did it affect you in any way, or anyone you know? Let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to read them, and I'll chat to you down there. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye. Thank you.